Okay, hey everybody, it's Kelly. We hope you had a Merry Christmas and are off to a fun New Year, but keeping it safe tomorrow. Wanted to take a quick minute to jump online and let you know that our wonderful partners at Dental Intel have made a few changes in the settings. Want to make sure you are up to date on these as we start into the new year, that you're updating your hours for all your staff, past and present, so the data we use and the way we goal set are accurate. So make sure you update all your staff hours going forward and make sure your year-to-date hours are accurate month by month, or at least for the grand total. So when we look at the total amount of hours, we're good. Um, Over the next few days, you're going to get some emails and information from us about some new things we're doing in the coming year. But we are back at it and ready to schedule our 2021 meetings. So please feel free to reach out to us. So I want to introduce Zach McKenzie. Zach is one of our partners with Dental Intel. Zach, Curtis, and Katie are my go-to trainers and coaches for me to help you. And so if there's a problem that you're having, anything Dental Intel, you can reach out to me and I'll in turn be reaching out to Zach and be putting you in touch with him. Zach has helped many of you already. So without a lot of clutter, I'm just going to introduce Zach so he can go over our changes and what's going on with Dental Intel. So Zach, thanks for getting on here this morning with us and making this happen.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I'm glad that we're able to share some of these and break it down. As you all know, Dental Intel is a company, we prioritize data. We're the world's best software to help you grow and manage your dental practice. And Kelly is one of our very best coaches. So we're so glad that you're working with him and he's helping you along there. And as the world's best software to grow and manage your practice, we're constantly innovating and trying to make things a better experience for you. So as moving forward, we have new things coming in the pipeline. And so the background of why we made some of these changes, a lot of it is back end for what we're doing and empowering Dental Intel to be able to add more products within Dental Intel. As you've known in the past, the product that you've known in Dental Intel is we're now calling it the growth platform. So the dashboards, the follow-ups, all these tools that you've been using with Kelly is called the growth platform now. And we are adding other apps and other things and other services as we build more products, and we'll bring on some other partners with us as well, software partners. And so you'll see more of those updates coming through. And so I just wanted to walk through some of the changes that impact you on a regular basis.
And one of those great new apps is the DI Payments, which Dental Intel, as a client of Schwartz Consulting Group and working with Dental Intel, they bumped all of you to the front of the line, and you are now activated. If you want to finish the setup process, you can start using DI Payments as early as tomorrow once you finish that setup process. So if you log into Dental Intel and you walk through the steps that are there, we also sent you an email and link on how to do that. So make sure you're taking advantage of one of those great new changes Zach was just talking about. So Zach, why don't you take us through some of the changes in the settings that you enlightened me on?
Okay, sounds great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm going to be using a demo office. I've blurred the names for HIPAA, but this is what you'll be seeing. And so along the left side is our navigation. This was updated a while ago, yeah. And so the newest part here is what's called the App Store. And as Kelly mentioned with DI Payments, and as we continue to bring more products for our customers, if you hover over that App Store and click on that, this is where you'll see existing apps that you already have and other applications that your practice might not already have. And so if you have any questions on those, you can always reach out to Kelly and he'll break that down for you. But as you can see, this practice that I'm using has the online scheduling app, formerly known as LocalMed. And then Call Insight, as well as all of these blue ones are part of the growth platform. So the dashboards, the huddle,
which means it's just another way for all of you that are working with me to access the tools that are on the dashboard. For right now, they're not a separate app or anything like that. It's just how you can also access those particular tools. If you've not signed up for Local Med online scheduling, contact me and we'll give you the Schwartz Consulting Group special pricing. Make sure you're linked together and then we can get you up and running on that real quick.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's a wonderful feature. I know that as we've, especially during the holidays and other things, we're saying, hey, like, this is how you get scheduled. For me, I'm in my late 20s and I changed to a new dentist a year ago because I had an insurance change. And it literally took me 3 or 4 days to get scheduled because I we were emailing back and forth and I was checking my personal email after they were out of the office. And so I could have avoided all of that with 5 minutes if that practice had the online scheduling component. So Kelly, I'm sure has talked to you about that in the past already, but if you are interested in getting that set up, please, yeah, contact Kelly.
Now, Zach, you know all my guys are going to give you a hard time if you switch dentist only because of insurance. So
yeah, well, part of it was because I was in college and my parents didn't have insurance at the time. And so when I started at Dental Intel, I got dental insurance. And so that was.
you need to say that you did it because you moved too far away.
Okay.
That's the key.
Yeah.
All right, take us through this.
Okay, perfect. So the biggest changes here, I'm going to hover over my initials down here. And so as you have seen several months ago, there was a bunch of options here where we've simplified it to just the settings option. And I'm going to go ahead and click on settings now. And the look of settings, as you might have noticed, like the week before Thanksgiving, this is when this update went through. And so there's some new privileges and new settings, but it's a lot of just changing where you used to find settings for certain things. So I'm going to just break these down on an individual basis. We did create videos for each of these areas that should answer a lot of those questions. And so, but as we said before, if you have additional questions, Kelly is a fantastic resource for you. Our support team is also able to answer those questions too. But so perfect. So under my settings, if you click on contact information, this is how you change your personal contact info. If you need to change your password, you can do that. And then if you click on photo, if you want a photo on your account profile, you can choose a photo. And then the about gives some details of the requirements for that photo, but that photo is going to show up everywhere that you have initials, essentially, in the mobile app, in the provider pulse, in those places. And then report preferences. So this is referring to these daily, weekly, and monthly reviews. And so these daily, weekly, and monthly reviews, to see them in Dental Intel, that privilege is housed in a different spot. But if you want those summaries emailed to you on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, you click on report preferences, turn on which ones you'd like that PDF emailed to, and then click save. And so that's the my settings.
They already had it set up with the update. They should still be getting them, but they want to double check to make sure nothing clicked off, correct?
No, actually. So when we pushed the update, we just turned those report preferences off for everyone. And so if you were getting that in the past, you'll want to come in and turn it on. And that's
so if any of you are wondering why you're not getting them, this is the answer. The update changed it. So then you'll be getting, go on and turn on whether you want daily, weekly, or monthly.
Perfect. Yeah. And as I mentioned before, this was a huge update for the back end for how we're processing things, but also a nice, easier look for you and hopefully more intuitive than we've had in the past. Perfect. So that's my settings. So I'm going to jump into practice now. And this is just all things overall practice as far as settings go. So user management is what used to be practice users. This is where you go to see all the different users in your practice, the usernames. You can see the title, and you'll only see all the users if you have admin privileges turned on. And I'll jump into privileges in a minute here as well. But you should only see your name here if you don't have admin privileges in the office. And so this looks the same as it used to. If you click on history, you're still able to see how many times your team is logging into Dental Intel.
Now,
The
one of
new
the things I
area,
noticed there, Zach, the changes now you can also see whether they logged in on mobile or desktop,
yep.
where it used to be just desktop.
hmm
And so, doctors, office managers, particularly if you're watching this is how you can utilize by looking at the history. If your team are actually logging in and at least looking, and then under the follow-up performance, you can see what they're actually doing. But this is a good way to see if they're at least logging in. You can look and see if they're using their mobile device or their desktop to do so. Zach, one of the questions we have, and you might not know this, but whenever some of my offices log in, we're East Coast time. The date and time appeared to be Mountain time on a consistent basis. Did they update that to local time zones or no?
Yeah, I am not sure. I'll have to double check on that. I'm not aware of a change made there.
Yeah, because
But
some of my
yeah,
teams are like, we never logged in at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning,
yeah. And
Okay.
as many of you may know, Dental Intel, we're headquartered in Utah, and so we're in Mountain Time out here. So
Yeah. Not a big deal, but something we should look at.
yeah, definitely. I'll make a note of that. And then so right here, this is going to just list all logins since the most recent to oldest. And if you wanted to search for one person, so like if I wanted to search for times that I logged in, I could type my name and I can see that I've only logged in once. And this is over the last 3 months. It's a rolling 3 months. So, but this new area that we do have is called requests. And so if you are so let's just say John is a hygienist in the office and he didn't have access to all of the um, data on like the collections board because he maybe didn't need to, but let's say he wanted to access that data. So he would come in, click on the collections board, and he'd have the option to request access to this dashboard. And so when the administrator comes in, you'd click on requests, you'd see, oh, this user wants to use this dashboard. And so you can request them and request, or you can grant them a access level. And I'll go more in detail on what these access levels are and what they mean. But this is how you can control some of those requests that come through from the team. Currently, our team is looking at having a notification pop up for admins for when people do request. Right now, that's not something that we have in there.
And in my opinion, guys working with me, the admin function should be you as the doctor or practice owner, your office manager, or if you don't have the title of office manager, which some of you do not, your key front desk person, whoever's really your point person for Dental Intel, they're your admin. But there is no real harm in allowing everybody admin access because there's really nothing on there we're not willing to share. All they can change are things like hours, maybe goals, things of that nature, which in our several years working with DI, we've not had any issues.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for breaking that down, Kelly. And what Kelly initially said about the practice owner, the office manager, or equivalent in the office, and then your coach like Kelly, those will be the main people with admin access. As Kelly said, hasn't had an issue with that. But admin access, essentially, I'll break down exactly what that gives as well. So.
Thank you.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and jump over. I'm going to go back to the users here, and I'm going to just scroll down here to this is me when and so I'm going to click on edit here. And so when you edit an individual profile, you'll see all that person's information, and you'll be able to change their roles and things. If they're a provider, make sure the provider IDs are there, and then privileges. This looks different. This is one of the big facelifts that we adjusted with the breakdown or with this update. So admin access, if you turn that on, it'll also change everything to full. And if you turn that off, it'll leave everything on full. And so if you want someone to have all the access but not admin privileges, you can just toggle it like that. That's the easiest way to do that. As far as the what admin does, so in addition to giving so full on all of these, it grants that, and it also allows you to see all the users, change goals, kind of update things at administrative level. So the performance board. So as you know, the performance board is the main dashboard in Dental Intel where you see production, visits, the ReCare pie chart that I know that Kelly has you working on. And so if we click on access, we'll notice that there's none, limited, and full. And so to give you a nice, easy breakdown of how you can find what these mean, because sometimes I even forget, is if you come over to DI Learn. And Kelly, have you had your practices jumping into DI Learn?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, perfect. So most of you should be familiar with DI Learn already, and probably one of these trainings options here. What I'm going to look at is I'm going to scroll down a little bit here and look at the help articles and click on search now. And I'm going to just type in privileges. It's always a tricky word to spell. But user privileges definitions, this article right here, if you click on it, this breaks down what full versus limited means when you do have the different options there for all those different things. And so, so if we look at the performance and collection board, if they have limited access, it means that they can't export the data out of Dental Intel. And so when you're looking at source data or ReCare pie chart and exporting that data, if they have limited access, that is not an option. So yeah, so let's jump back over into here in the privileges. So that's performance board. Collections board is all things collections. Same kind of deal with the performance board. The provider pulse is the dashboard that breaks everything down by individual provider. And so limited access on the provider pulse means that the users will not be able to edit the provider goals from within the provider pulse itself. If you have full access, there's that little edit pencil next to many of the goals there. So then the huddle, we have limited and full again. So this breaks down. So the huddle and the schedule, limited access will restrict users from rearranging the order of those operatories or editing the metrics that we have in the last week tab, those boxes in the morning huddle. So if you have limited access, you can't change those things. And so then patients here, when we look at, yeah.
I'm sorry, on the huddle, limited access, they would still see everything. They just can't make changes to the huddle report.
Correct.
So
That's
with
exactly
that,
right.
I would say doctors only and administrators would have full access. I would recommend everyone else has limited access. In the case like Zach's talking about, if Zach wanted to have something changed, he can agree to that with the administrator, office manager, and the doctor. Change can be made, and then he'll see at that point forward. But I would keep that at a limited for the whole team.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's a great insight, Kelly. And ultimately, we want Kelly has great recommendations, but it's up to you about like who has what access and those kinds of things based on your office, because every office is a little bit different, and that's why we have these privileges set up in the way that we do. So patients, if we look over at this, it says patient finder on this, but it's talking patients. So if you have limited access, then you cannot create new filters or edit or save existing filters.
On patient finder?
On patient finder. And I believe that limited also does not allow you to export those lists of patients. And so
let me take a quick second to throw a caution out to you doctors. Zach mentioned export, which means I can export it to a file, print, download. If you have an employee who has resigned, given notice, or is on the edge, I would make sure that they are turned off on Dental Intel so they're not downloading patient lists to take with them. I'm a big advocate of not allowing or protecting the assets of the practice, and the assets are your patients.
Exactly. That's a great thought to add in there, Kelly. And
Yeah,
Dental
I would love
Intel,
it. I would love it if you had the ability to notify the administrator or the office owner that a list was created and printed. Be a good cautionary thing. I don't know if it's even an option, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't. Our team may have thought about that before, but I'm going to take note of that because I think that that can be a great thought there. So I'll pass that along, Kelly. And then, yeah, and with that also, if you have someone that is no longer in your practice, if you just click on deactivate right here, all of these privileges will be turned off and they'll be moved to the inactive users list. And anyone in this list has been an active user in your practice in the past, but now cannot log into your practice at all when you click deactivate. And so for people that have already moved on, that are no longer with you, make sure that they're deactivated. But if they're someone that is maybe given their 2 weeks, or the cases that Kelly mentioned, you can come in here and change those so they still have access to the things that they need in the meantime, but they don't have other powers in that time too. And so, perfect. So Call Insight, as I mentioned, is one of our add-on products, and it's a call pop-up that pops up with the patient. Whenever someone calls into your office, the patient card pops up in on your desktop, just and gives you kind of a smart caller ID where you can see their follow-up suggestions of what to talk to them about, outstanding balances, all of that kind of stuff that can pop up. If you have questions about that or want to learn more about that, Kelly is a fantastic contact for you on that.
yeah, I call it caller ID on steroids. Unfortunately, not as many people are using it as I would like to see because it is very powerful. With Call Insights, you can even set it up by station. So you would set it up only at the front desk, but you wouldn't want it on the hygiene or chair side in operatory rooms necessarily. But it gives you great, just as it says, insight, because I will know Zach is calling. I know he has an appointment tomorrow. He has work to be done. He owes money, whatever it may be. So I know who it is, but it also allows me to screen calls. So let's say I'm face to face with a patient, the phone rings. It will even show that it is an unknown number. Maybe it's assigned to a dental lab or even me as your coach. So you know whether to pick it up or not as well, allowing you to improve customer service. And this is an area that I'll be talking to more of you about this year, but we want to get Call Insight up and going with you as well.
Perfect. And then another really cool feature to add on what Kelly stated already is when you have one of those unknown numbers call, if they are a new patient or a new patient potential opportunity, we have some fields that you can select right in there and track data over time on how many people are calling into your office. And if for whatever reason they don't convert to a new patient, if it's like insurance, if it's cost, whatever the reason is, you can actually mark that right within Call Insight. So you can make, you can track data over time and then make informed decisions about other things like that.
I had a couple of offices over time have told me what's nice with Caller Insight is sometimes when you get these older patients, you can't understand, they're too soft spoken. You might not get their name or their spelling. And because Call ID or Call Insight has it attached to their name and number, you'll be able to see all their information much easier.
Yeah. And if you're anything like me, whenever I'm getting a call from like on my personal line from an unknown number, I'm usually letting that go to voicemail. But this helps avoid that by connecting with your practice management software. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you guys purposefully don't answer the phone in your office. That was probably a bad example.
No, but there are times where you're right there that you don't.
Yeah,
You know,
for
if you're
whatever
walking out a
reason.
big
So,
case and you got somebody calling about something trivial, it might not be the right time.
exactly. So perfect. So follow-ups. This is a feature that Kelly is fantastic about helping you all use. And that he stresses a lot, and it's honestly one of my favorite features in Dental Intel. And so they can either have access to it or not. There's no limited option here. And so I imagine that everyone would be full access there.
I would agree with that.
And then reports. This is whether they can see those daily, weekly, monthly reports when they're logged into the portal. I don't see a lot of harm in having that on or for other team members, but depending on whether they want those reports emailed, that's going to be the bigger component of that. And then online scheduling, this is something, this is powered by local med, kind of what we alluded to earlier. This is if you have online scheduling, this option will show up, and you'll either be able to grant full or no access to seeing that information of who is scheduled, what messages have been sent out, that kind of thing within the portal.
Zach, if there are no online scheduling privileges, are we still able to send the patient a link to schedule?
Ooh, that is a great question. I assume so, because that deals with, I believe this deals with the specific area of like looking at
Reporting
the dashboard
and
itself and the reporting itself. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's, I'm going to double check on that. Okay. Awesome. And then the mobile app, if you, this is the phone app that I highly recommend at the providers using it at the very least. If the doctor and the office manager as well, that's an app that you can easily look up your schedule and a few stats and things like that. So you can be prepping mentally for the next day, or doctors, if you want to send a follow-up or a post-op message to a one of your patients, you can find that information really easily through the mobile app, and even have that like connect the number to your messaging app and send a message that way. So, and then practice settings. This is one of the big ones as far as limited and full. And so I'm going to go back over here. It doesn't look like we have that breakdown here of what limited that means there. But the practice settings, if it's full, that means that this person has full privileges to adjust users, goals, other things like that to change everything within settings. I'm not 100% sure on what the limited is, so I'll follow up with Kelly once I find out about that.
So with practice settings, I would stick to basically the administrators and owner for right now.
Yes, and that is definitely what I would agree with there as well, because you don't want, not everyone needs to be going in and seeing everything like that. Okay, so that's all the privileges. Any other questions on that, Kelly, before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to move over to the general settings of the practice. And so the general settings are, do you want to look at production gross or net, there's these I buttons that you can click on that will break down exactly what that means. And then if you do it by net, and we have a few different ways that we can calculate net production within Dental Intel. And so I usually like looking at gross just because it gives me an idea of everything that's happening, but everyone is a little bit different and has different preferences there. So that's how you can change that. The practice name and address, just updating that information. And then the ticker options. So the ticker board is that little black bar that scrolls across the top of the performance and the collections boards. And this is where you can choose which metrics show up on that ticker board. And that ticker, those options used to be, if you hovered over the dashboards, you'll notice that we only have the dashboards now. We don't have the ticker options or the practice goals located here anymore. They're now located right here. And so if we jump into goals here, this is some overall practice goals. If you click on the I button, it'll tell you whether this is for future use and we're pulling that number into somewhere else in Dental Intel, or what's happening with some of those. So this is where you, one of the administrators can change some of the settings like on the performance board and other places as far as goals. But you can also change those goals by clicking on the green numbers on the performance board and adjusting them from there if you have those full practice settings. So if we click on the goal for visits for this practice on a weekly basis, you can change that right there as well. Awesome. And then clinical hours. This, if you hover over your name, this used to be housed down here and it said clinical hours, but now it's housed right here. And so this is our demo office, so we don't have it fully fleshed out. But you want to have some kind of hour on every day of the week. If your office is closed on Sundays, you can click on the X right here, and we're going to change that to every week, and it applies to all of and you can deselect some of them if you want, then click update hours, then that'll change the whole column. In order for goals to fully properly populate throughout Dental Intel, you'll want to make sure that every person on this list has hours for every day of the week, and then you can change time frames if we wanted to make sure that everything is updated for this quarter on. So October through now, we could go back to October. Whenever you make these changes, you can say, oh, we're scheduled for 8 hours on Thursdays. This would be, you can either do a one-time thing every week or every other week, and that'll change everything from that day moving forward. And so if we go back one more week, we'll notice that it's not set for that previous week. And so this area looks a little bit different. If you have specific, so let's say this office manager, we don't need to track clinical hours for the office manager because this is talking about the providers and how long they're working. And so if you click on remove from list here, you can confirm that, and their name will no longer show up on the clinical hours. And if there's someone that you don't see here that does need to be there, you click on all, go to non-clinical, and all those people are there. So this hygienist, we want to track those clinical hours. So we're going to click track clinical hours, and they'll move back up to all, so we see them here. And that's, we used to have adding and removing from privileges or from the clinical hours in the privileges. We thought this was a little bit more intuitive of a way to do that.
On that note, for those of you who obviously have hygiene, I would recommend that you set up a temp hygienist as a provider, and then don't give them privileges, but have their hours recorded when they come and go. So you might go 2 weeks with no temp. All of a sudden you have an extra hygienist, so you add their hours. If your temp is working for me instead of me being there, you want to remove my hours and put the temp hours in, walk them out, so that all the things your temp does, right down from case acceptance to phone calls, is reflective of the temp, not the temp who's working for me. So make sure your hours are accurate. Make sure you have anyone who is clinically assisting, a hygienist or doctor who are providing production. Most of you I have taught dental assisting. We do not need the hours in there. So as a client of mine, hygienists and doctors who are actually producing are the only hours we're using. And again, it is patient access hours, not clock hours. So we don't need the 20 minutes before huddle, 30 minutes at the end of the day. It's how many hours are you open for patient care?
Precisely. Great insights there, Kelly. And what I recommend doing as far as the initial setup goes is set up what your normal week looks like. So if you're an office that works Tuesday through Friday, let's put in the hours. Let's turn Sunday, Monday, and Saturday off. Put in your regular working hours Tuesday through Friday. And then I recommend having the office manager or someone in your office that's designated as that, the admin administrator, to come in here and be able to check these things about once a week. If someone's sick or out of the office, or if it's a vacation week. I mean, Christmas and New Year's is a perfect example because many offices have limited or varied hours during that time. And so you can change those one-time occurrences, and that'll keep all the goals and other things populated correctly and updating well. And so if you just take a couple minutes every week to just make sure, okay, this is what we're actually doing this week, that'll go a long way in just helping everything be set
So
straight.
Zach, what we do is we teach the hygienists self-police their hours, but whoever's responsible for recare, they verify and double check that the hygienist hours are correct. And whoever's responsible for the doctor's schedule, they're keeping the doctor's hours on point, as well as the doctor's key assistant. So there's a check and balance. That's what we recommend, but just get it done however you need to. Zach's way, my way, your way. Just make sure your hours are up to date. And being that we're getting ready to go into the first of the year, make sure your hours for this year are correct. That, for example, when you were shut down during the COVID period, or because of a COVID shutdown post opening, make sure your hours are accurate. So when we go to set goals for 2021, we have accurate data in terms of what your true production numbers were. And then let's set your hours going forward, at least through the first quarter, if not the whole year, and then stay on top of it. All right, next item.
Perfect. Okay. So the treatment team. And so Dental Intel, as far as case acceptance and that treatment team tracking and whatnot that Kelly alluded to, we're the only software that automatically does this, that provides the automated team treatment acceptance tracking. And so what the treatment team here does is it allows you to make manual adjustments as needed. And so, for example, this patient came in with a treatment plan. They saw a dentist. We can, if they don't have, and so this will pull in based on the provider IDs that are attached to the appointment. So it looks like this patient only saw the dentist. They didn't have a hygienist or assistant. They did have a treatment coordinator on that appointment. And so if you click on this, you can choose from your list of hygienists or assistants in your office. And then if you do make manual changes, just click on confirm team here. And so ideally, I mean, you're just using the automated. This is just for if we need to double check or make sure that something was attributed to the correct person.
And so for the majority of you out there that are clients of mine, we've not gone through this portion much because we are primarily worried about overall acceptance, and the hygienist who saw him gets attached, the doctor who saw him gets attached. We've not, although we can, gone into as far as which treatment coordinator or which assistant. So if you want help with that and knowing that information, please reach out to me. I'll make it part of our next training session. But I would not worry about this at this point because it does automatically default for the key information we currently need and use.
Yep, perfect. Great insight, Kelly. So let's go to apps now. So this is going to be how you manage the different, and so all these different areas and the different apps. So I'm going to click on Call Insight here. And so what this will look like is you might have some various, some specific app things, and then you can actually control out of your entire team who has access to this feature. So this office, if we click on Call Insight, we see the list of each of the people and then what their permission level is. And so what we showed you before is by individual going to all the different things, and this is going from the thing to all the different individuals. And so there's a couple different ways that you can update that, but you can see that there's 10 team members that currently have access to this feature. So if we go to dashboards, there's a video here that breaks down the dashboard settings, but this is also that team member access, allowing you to see, okay, which team members, who has access to which dashboard, and this you'd click on the different dashboards that we have. And then follow-ups. This is going to be a big one. So if you hover over follow-ups now, you might notice that we only have the open follow-ups in the performance areas now. There used to be pushing notes and settings here, but those are now housed within settings and the apps and follow-ups here. So the auto follow-up settings, it's the same kind of an idea that you've worked off of past. And I know that your teams don't use the auto follow-ups much, right, Kelly?
That's correct.
Okay.
Except for past due accounts over a certain dollar amount in a certain time frame and past due claims. But the others, we prefer for the most part, I want you as a a staff member, as an owner, I want you using Dental Intel to do what you want, not Dental Intel telling you what to do.
Exactly. And so as you click on the past due account here, it has this, it says you currently have them turned off, so you can turn them on. You can select the settings of when they'll be created, click next, and then you can assign them to the specific team member and then save that setting. And then each night, Dental Intel, if you have one of these turned on, when Dental Intel syncs with your practice management software in the evenings, it'll identify, oh, these are all the patients that have a past due account over $100 past 30 days or whatever your setting is. And then it'll create those follow-ups and add them to your follow-ups list automatically each night. And then pushing notes. So whenever you log a follow-up, you'll want to make sure that this is turned on, because that will push those notes back automatically to your practice management software. And depending on the practice management software you have, that might be a little bit different of a place. If you have any questions on that, Kelly or our support team can assist on that. Perfect. So the huddle is the team member access here, because if you're changing those tiles or rearranging things, that's all done within the huddle app itself. Mobile app, team member access again, online scheduling, same thing, patient finder, same thing, reports, that's there, and then schedule is right there. And so yeah, that just breaks all that down. So that's an easier way to manage it from an overall practice level of
Zach,
who has access to what.
The schedule right there, is that regarding seeing how it looks in the morning huddle?
No, great question. So if you see this calendar on the left side.
Sorry. Who has access to seeing the schedule on a daily, weekly? That just went by me for a second.
And then if they have the limited, it keeps them from adjusting the order of the operatories.
Got it.
So yeah, but that is the nuts and bolts of everything that the settings section and the update. And so Kelly, I don't know if you want to do this in a separate opportunity, but to talk about the ReCare pie chart and the follow-ups about what we talked about how that's not automatically generating that. Would you like me to touch on that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the ReCare pie chart. And what Zach, as he pulls it up on the screen, is referencing is it used to be when you click the ReCare pie chart, any color, and then you click the name, it would automatically create your first attempt task. So there would be a task on what you need to do. Now with the new update, you have to create that first follow-up by hitting the plus sign. From there, you want to open up who you're going to do it, in this case, Hygiene ReCare, and then assign it to anyone. So I do unassigned, unless I want something specific, but I generally don't. And I'm going to create that first follow-up for today. And under leaving a note, I might put needs prophy or needs something, right? And it's usually needs a prophy, and I'll create it. Now, when I'm looking at this card, I will make my first attempt by hitting check and following the process. So what Zach is helping me with here is we now have one little extra step by creating the first attempt needing to be made, because Dental Intel has made some improvements when it comes to how we're going to utilize local med and some other features that are coming down the pipe. They had to make these adjustments, and these will be good adjustments to make. It is an extra step that your front desk needs to make. Now, if they were to just call the person without creating the follow-up first, and then even if they make the call and assign the next follow-up date under the performance board, they won't get credit for that call today. So I've had many of you over the years say, well, I know my team's making their calls. How come it's not registering? Well, they're making the calls, setting the follow-up, and they're not getting credit for the original call. So make sure you create that follow-up first. Now, in the big picture, the fact that your schedule is full and the calls are being made, that's the most important part. But we do want to make sure you're giving your team credit, and we can see how the performance and the data are driving results. So take this extra step, and if you have any questions, reach out to me.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thanks for helping me remember that one, Zach.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then you can see who it's assigned to. And just as we have the patient card open, when you do have call insight, this will pop up separately and it'll have all this information, the suggestions, any follow-ups that are outstanding for that patient or their family members. If you click on their name here, you've got their information, their contact info. So there's a lot of helpful things that that call insight brings in for when inbound calls are coming in.
And trial and error, one of the things we've learned too with Call Insight, you can set a timer for how long you want that to be up on your screen. So if you initially say, or a staff member says, it only pops up for 3 or 4 seconds, I can't read it. Well, you can lengthen the timer, whether you want it up for 10, 15, 30, or 60 seconds. And again, by operatory, because you don't want it popping up in your treatment rooms, your operatories. You really only want this popping up at the front desk for Call Insight.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there
Perfect.
one other item we had, Zach?
I don't think so. I think that covers everything that I wanted to make sure that we covered. And then once again, please ask Kelly your questions. If you can also reach out to our support team on certain things. But yeah, we're more than happy to continue to help, and we're really excited about this App Store update because it's going to allow further opportunities and further products as we continue to innovate and build products ourselves, as well as bring on partnering software companies to bring their solutions to you as well. We've got some great ones in the pipeline that I'm really excited for that we can't quite share yet. But the payments dashboard is another one that you'll see right here. And as Kelly mentioned, the payments dashboard is going to look like a little chat bubble and with a dollar sign in it. And it'll be towards the bottom right above the App Store here for you. And if you hover over that and click on that, it'll, if you're already set up, it'll just show you that information. If you haven't set it up yet, it'll give you a button to update settings. That there's a nice detailed video, and that process should only take 10 to 15 minutes to gather some like bank information, set up who the AR administrator is going to be, who will ultimately oversee most of that page and things like that. And so Kelly can provide more direction on that. But as he mentioned, because you guys are working with Kelly, we got you all set up with that during our beta phase. So you all have access to it before the rest of our
customers. Yeah. And if you go through your emails, you would have received an email with me with all the instructions and a video link and everything you need within the last 30 days, I think it was. So go in, check your, maybe even your spam email, but I sent it out to all of you. So you should have that information. For some of you who might be watching this video that don't have dental intel, or we haven't worked together in a while, and we've talked about dental intel, we've made a lot of improvements. Things are just incredible. It's awesome. You know, please reach out to me and we can get you re-engaged. We can get you set up or reset up. We can turn it back on if it's been off for a while due to COVID or whatever reasons you may have had. So reach out to me. We're here to help you. We want to make 2021 your best year yet. So Zach, thank you for taking your time this morning. I hope you're staying warm out there in Utah. I'm sure you got some snow. Give Curtis, Katie, Weston, the whole DI family a big hug for us, and we appreciate it. For all of you, if you have anything you want training on, or you want a webinar on, or more detailed information on, please reach out to me. Zach and the team are always there to help us, and it never hurts to hear things from a second person. So we just want to make your office successful. All right. So have a great New Year's Eve. Be safe out there with everything you're doing. Doctors team, we look forward to seeing you in your office this year and making it the best year yet. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly.